World War II was arguably the most bloody and tragic war in all of human history. Only 20 years after what was said to be the war to end all wars, World War II lasted 6 years and cost tens of millions of lives. In this video, we will be discussing and examining the role Norway played in World War II. In order to better understand the invasion of Norway in World War II, we must first investigate the reasoning which caused Norway to be a region of strategic interest and contention during the war. The main motivation behind the invasion of Norway begins with Norway's neighbor, Sweden. Sweden was a major producer and exporter of iron ore, a primary ingredient in the manufacturing of steel, which Germany needed for construction of their weapons and vehicles. So Germany got most of their iron from Sweden. This iron was shipped from ports in the north of the country. However, during the winter, this area of the Baltic Sea was frozen. But only a few hundred miles away is the port of Narvik, Norway, which is ice-free year-round. So millions of tons of iron were transported from mines in the north of Sweden to this Norwegian port to be shipped off to Germany each year. In the early stages of World War II, the Allies saw an opportunity to limit Germany's iron supply from Scandinavia. When the Soviet Union began their invasion of Finland in 1939, the Allied powers asked permission of the Swedish and Norwegian governments to send troops through the north of these countries to help Finland. The Allies would then leave behind some troops along the way in order to maintain supply and communications lines with their forces in Finland, effectively occupying the port of Narvik and the iron mines in northern Sweden. However, the Swedish and Norwegians refused, so the Allies created a different plan. They would put mines along the waters of the Norwegian coast, preventing the shipment of iron from Narvik. The Allies believed this would provoke a response from the Germans, allowing the Allies to intervene and cut off German iron supply, at the expense of making Norway a battleground of World War II. The Germans predicted the Allies would plan some sort of operation, and so they created their own plan, Operation Weserübung. Operation Weserübung was the German plan to invade both Denmark and Norway, and it was led by German General Nicholas von Falkenhorst. The Germans believed they could quickly take control of Norway with a swift attack on major cities throughout the country, and by capturing the Norwegian king Haakon VII and his government. The primary objectives of Operation Weserübung included the cities of Narvik, Trondheim, Bergen, and the capital, Oslo. The Germans planned to use their navy to land troops in the coastal cities of Narvik, Trondheim, and Bergen. However, this was a risky maneuver, considering the superiority of the British Navy. Thus, the element of surprise was critical to the operation, as the British could otherwise easily stop German ships from reaching their destinations. The Germans also planned to take Oslo and the surrounding southern Norwegian area by landing troops from the sea and the air. If all went according to plan, Oslo and other major Norwegian cities would be quickly taken with little to no resistance, and the king and his government would be captured, forcing Norway to capitulate. The invasion of Norway began on the 7th of April, with Germany sending their fleet to begin the operation. Around this time, the first battle of the operation took place. On the 8th of April, the HMS Glowworm, a British vessel, had been separated from its main fleet as it was searching for a man overboard. At the same time, German ships were making their way northward to invade Norway, and the German destroyer Bernd von Arnim spotted the Glowworm. The Glowworm soon found itself attacked, not only by the Bernd von Arnim, but also under the fire of the German cruiser Admiral Hipper. Realizing it was outmatched, the Glowworm attempted, but failed, to escape. The commanding officer of the ship, Lieutenant Commander Gerard Brodmeen Roop, turned the Glowworm around and rammed the Admiral Hipper, damaging it, with the hope of damaging it enough that the Glowworm could escape to the British fleet. However, the combined fire of the German ships eventually destroyed the Glowworm. For his actions, Lieutenant Commander Roop was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross. Despite this, German ships continued to advance and soon landed in Norwegian coastal cities. Most of the German objectives were taken quickly and easily, with the only problem in the beginning of the operation being the invasion of Oslo. As the German ships moved slowly in the night through the fjord which led to Oslo, the lead ship, the Blucher, was spotted by a Norwegian lighthouse. Norwegian coastal batteries proceeded to fire upon the Blucher, destroying the German ship, which was unprepared as it did not expect to encounter resistance. The fjord was now partially blocked by the sinking Blücher, and fog over the city hindered paratroopers and air attacks. However, the Germans were eventually able to overcome this and soon took the city. But the Germans failed in their mission to capture the King Haakon VII. When the Blücher was spotted, the Germans lost the element of surprise, and their Norwegian king and government were given enough time to escape the city to eastern Norway. Once there, the Norwegian government gave him full wartime power. Meanwhile, the Allies sent forces to assist in the defense of Norway against Germany. While they caused a few problems for the Germans, they were forced to leave as Germany invaded France, leaving the Norwegians to fend for themselves against Germany. Eventually, the remainder of Norway was overtaken. The government escaped to England, where they acted as a government in exile in London. King Haakon began gathering all the remaining Norwegian troops to fight in battles and sabotage German efforts in Norway. One such instance of this was Operation Gunnerside. In Norway, the Vemork plant was a facility which produced heavy water, a material which was being used by the Germans in the research of nuclear power and potentially the development of nuclear weapons. A group of Norwegian operatives parachuted near the area, hiked for 5 days, and climbed hundreds of feet up a cliff to destroy the plant, and it was all done completely undetected. Norwegian troops continued to fight in the war alongside the Allies, while King Haakon recorded inspirational speeches which were radio broadcasted back to Norway. Nearing the end of the war, Norwegian troops, although small in numbers, were sent to the far north of Norway, where they assisted the Soviet Union in the liberation of northern Norway. The Germans attempted to slow the advance by destroying everything in their paths as they retreated, so the combined Norwegian-Soviet force could not use anything the Germans left behind. But this could not stop the inevitable defeat of the German military in Germany itself. By the end of April 1945, Adolf Hitler committed suicide and, soon after, Germany capitulated, ending the World War II in Europe. However, Norway's story does not end there, as King Haakon and the other parts of the government were still in London. Eventually, they returned home to Norway, to a triumphant welcome.